For more, let's speak to David Lubin, a senior research fellow at Chatham House. Hello to you, David. This event going ahead today without the top leader of the most powerful member. Now, given that Donald Trump is once again pulling the U.S. back from the sort of global leadership role, is China missing a golden opportunity? Are you reading anything into the fact that Xi Jinping won't be there?
To be honest, I think we can either read or not read anything into Xi Jinping's absence from the Rio summit. China thinks that Brics is a very important institution. It sponsors Brics, it supports Brics. But in some respects, Brics does kind of challenge China's bid for primacy. I mean, this is particularly true in the context of discussions about a Brics currency, which a number of people have got excited about over the last couple of years. The one thing I would warn is that from China's point of view, China wants the renminbi to be a globally important currency. And so I think it's unlikely that China would want to support a Brics currency to the extent that it might compete with its own ambitions to elevate the renminbi to global status. So there are tensions within Brics between China and the organization itself, but I don't think that goes far enough to explain Xi Jinping's absence from the summit. I think that's just a black box, and we just have to acknowledge it as a black box.
Yeah, or as simple as a scheduling conflict, as they're saying in Beijing.
Exactly.
David,
yeah.
When you're looking at Brics, has it lived up to its aim of being this sort of counterbalance to U.S. influence?
It's difficult. I mean, Brics has a very diverse membership. It includes countries like China, Iran, Russia that have an explicitly anti-Western agenda, but it also includes countries like India, Egypt, Indonesia, which have a merely non-Western agenda. And trying to find coherence in what is essentially a consensus-based organization, trying to find coherence around big issues when you have such a diverse membership is always going to be difficult. The kinds of issues that the Brazilian presidency has kind of set out for the BRICS summit and BRICS itself, global health cooperation, cooperation around trade and finance, around climate change, around AI governance, around the reform of global institutions. These are all critically important issue areas, and issue areas in which developing countries have a degree of common ground, but actually expecting an organization like BRICS with such a diverse membership to articulate a unified view about such important global issues, I think is a bit hopeful.
Yeah, and just for our viewers, since last year, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, the United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia have all joined BRICS. That being said, David, would it be then more effective if it were a smaller group?
Interesting question. I mean, certainly within the Brazilian government, I'm aware that there's a heavy debate, and I'm sure this is true across the main members of BRICS. There's a heavy debate about what the relative arguments are about size. You know, from the point of view of a country like Brazil, on the one hand, there's an argument to say that the smaller the organization is, the more voice a country like Brazil has, and therefore, you know, the bigger the membership becomes, Brazil's voice or India's voice or any individual member's voice becomes diluted, and in a way that allows China more effectively to dominate the organization. So my conjecture would be that that the strongest kind of bid for increasing membership is coming from Beijing, although the pace of increase in membership is going to be controlled. Last year, there was a big increase in membership, and then again, Indonesia joined at the beginning of 2025. I suspect now that BRICS will want to enter a period of consolidation before allowing new members to join. But there is a long list of members, a long list of developing countries that do want to join. Some, like Thailand, Venezuela, Bangladesh, for example, have formally applied, and a number of others, up to 30 others, have expressed interest in joining the organization. So the potential for expansion of BRICS is certainly there. But I suspect that because different countries have different views about the wisdom of expansion, and particularly about the wisdom of rapid expansion, that the expansion will take place, but it will be at a fairly measured pace.
Okay. And a lot of geopolitical turmoil in the world, to say the least, right now. How is that going to impact this BRICS summit?
Well, there's lots of kind of common ground in terms of opposition to Trump's what you might describe as policy chaos, and certainly a lot of opposition to the use of tariffs as a central policy tool by the Trump administration. But there can be a lot of kind of huffing and puffing about the unwisdom or the lack of wisdom of Trump's trade policies. But it's also worth bearing in mind that the trade relationships between China and the BRICS members are not perfect. China has been rapidly increasing its trade surplus vis-a-vis other developing countries in recent years. And that's been a source of frustration for a number of countries, including BRICS members like Brazil. And actually, the fastest growing source of hostile trade policy directed at Beijing these days is coming from developing countries, because they're more and more frustrated about the increase in market share that Chinese exports are accounting for. There's a sense that Chinese goods are kind of swamping developing countries' markets, and that is a source of frustration for a number of countries. So, however much there's a sort of unified willingness to complain about Trump's trade policies, there's also, I think, an underlying sense of frustration with China among many developing countries.
All right, David. Thank you very much. David Lubin from Chatham House, speaking to us from London. Thank you.